emailed that out. I am gonna get started just because, yeah, because I'm gonna get started. But they'll join us here soon, I'm sure. All right. Thank you for turning out tonight. We're gonna try to get this over quickly so you can go on and watch the rest of the Bruins game or whatever else you have planned tonight. We appreciate you coming out, and this is what we have in store for you. Thank you for being coaches during a pandemic. We could not offer soccer if you did not do this. It would be a bunch of kids just, roaming around, completely disorganized. So you make this possible. We added 4 travel teams this spring from the fall. It was tough in some cases to do the player movement that was required. I think I owe Corey Meehan some beers at some point for what she had to go through adding a team at the G56 level. If you're a G56 coach, um, when we're able to give hugs again, give Corey a hug because she needs one after what she's been through. Um, but yeah, we're over 1,000 registrations at this point for the spring. We're approaching our pre-COVID numbers. That is wild. I think people just flock to soccer because it's people are craving that what soccer can offer. So thank you for making that We could not do that if we didn't have the coaches to do that. So we're excited to get some glimpses of normality here. It's obviously still a pandemic. We're not out of the woods at all, but it's going to look more normal. It's the modifications to play that we all put up with in the fall, the kick-ins instead of throw-ins, no shoulder-to-shoulder contact, all that stuff. It's gone for the spring. It's really they've figured out that they know so much more about this virus now. It's really all about the masks. So that's the big thing is just everyone needs to wear a mask. We're going to be participating in MISL for the first time since fall 2019. It's been almost a year and a half since our kids have played a travel league game. And that's going to be, that's why it was important to do. Hopefully, I think every team got at least one travel friendly this preseason. It was big for us to try to make sure that they got a taste of what was coming because it's been so long. And then we're going to talk about compliance stuff tonight. It's really important right now that everyone be focused on making sure that you have your credential all set. We're going to get into this, but long story short, you can't be on the field with the kids if you're not credentialed. And the referee for your game on Saturday will definitely not let you be on the sidelines. You'll have to go outside the fence if you don't have a valid credential. So this is the time to get that started. We're going to go over the what, where, when, why, and how of that very shortly. And then finally, let me just implore you, please. I know it feels like we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I know a lot of you got vaccinated on Friday, which is awesome. It feels like things are opening back up, but please, please, please remain vigilant with COVID stuff. We had 83,000 kids play soccer in Massachusetts through Mass Youth Soccer in the fall. We had 0 known transmissions take place in there. Let's keep that number at 0. Let's do our part and let's stay on top of this. And we can have an amazing spring season. So, and I mentioned there's a Q&A at the end of this. We will take your questions. We will answer them. If you have an urgent burning question about something you see on there, go ahead and interrupt us during this. Otherwise, please hold your questions to the end. You can put them in the chat and I'll go back and look at the chat when we get to the end. But generally, write your questions down, put them in the chat, and ask them during the Q&A at the end, please. All right. We're going to talk about what it means to coach with us for a second here. Some of you are experienced, some of you are new. We'll try to keep it relevant to everyone. So there's 2 things. There's credentialing and there's certification, right? Credentialing is not optional. Everyone needs to be credentialed. You should know what's involved with that at this point. It's got to happen. Certification is another story. Certification's recommended. We love it when our coaches go take coaching courses. U.S. Soccer offers grassroots 4v4, 7v7, 9v9, 11v11 courses, and they offer the D license, ranging national licenses. We will reimburse you for the cost of going and taking those courses. We believe that it makes you better coaches. It makes our product that much better, the experience that much better for families. So we want to encourage you to go do that. The people who run those, Tommy Geis, Ian, the guys from Mass Youth Soccer, they are entertaining. It's a good use of 4 hours of your time, I promise. We do have some current travel coaching needs that we're desperately trying to fill. I really am trying to find a head coach for G4 Gray. If you know anyone, if you have any friends out there in the community who you think would make a good soccer coach, that's a fun team. I've worked with them a little this spring. Some friends of my daughter are on that team. I think they're going to be a lot of fun. We'd love to find a head coach for that team. We have an assistant coach on that team who's come in and he's busy with some coursework in the spring, and we want to make sure that we can find like a full dedicated head coach for that team who's going to be able to be there for the 2 practices and the game every week. So if you know anyone, please get in touch. I'd love to talk to them. And then we're looking for some assistant coaches just to make sure no one's stuck coaching by themselves. You see the 2 teams there. We're looking for assistant coaches just to make sure we have coaching staffs of at least 2. All right, our director of soccer, Gregory Jenks, is on the call, I believe. Did I leave B4 White off, Benton? I'm sorry. I was supposed to be on there.
Yeah, that's all right.
B4 White, that's who I was primarily thinking of. You have the biggest need for an assistant coach. So, yeah. Sorry, I must have missed out.
I didn't know if the B4 Gray was intentional, because I know they were like a late ad team as well, so they might have needed an assistant coach. But I thought I would just put that in the chat.
They could use an assistant coach, but you definitely, like, I can't believe I left that off. I was thinking of you predominantly when I put that on there.
So, no worries.
Sorry. Gregory Jenks, our director of soccer, would you like to talk to us for a second here?
Hey everyone. I hope you're doing well, having a good evening. Again, we just appreciate so much what you do for the league and for the kids, and especially in these crazy times when it's so hard for the kids to get out, and not having them on their couches, but being able to have them run around, have a good time, learn a little bit about football. It's really wonderful. You're all superheroes, and we really, really appreciate you. Just a couple of comments on philosophy. You guys are old hands at this, so most of you know a lot of this. We do take an approach once we get to travel where your team placement is based on an evaluation of your ability. We try to have players with reasonably similar levels of ability playing on the same teams, and the goal is obviously to sort of help coaches kind of coach within a certain range, and also then as these travel teams get placed in various divisions within MISO, to make sure that we can make a reasonable placement based on the overall skill level of the team, with the goal of everybody kind of having a good time and nobody feeling too pressured one way or the other, or too bored. And the good news is I think we've done a great job. The age coordinators have done a great job, and the roster should all now be set. We have, as you guys all know, and this goes from the very youngest kids all the way through our 7th and 8th graders, we do have a commitment that every single kid in the league gets to play at least 50% of the available minutes. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean equal playing time, as you guys have done when you sort of do your sub plans and whatever. There are often a couple of kids who have to play an extra shift. No issues with that. And you can decide how you do that. If you want to rotate it around, you want to give your stronger players that shift, that's totally at your discretion. But with the proviso that every single kid gets to play at least 50% of the available minutes. And given that as a sort of very, very important part of our philosophy, that then sort of determines how large we can make our rosters, to make sure that every kid can do it. Through a little bit of experimentation, trying to be able to make sure that there are a couple of extra shifts available. The sizes that you see on the screen now are the ones that we think are kind of best. We try not to go above 12 kids for 7v7. I love 11. That's my pick for that age group. And then once they go up to 9, 13 to 14 kids, and so on and so on, when you're playing a full squad, you need 15 to 17 kids to make sure that you have sufficient subs, because some kids not going to be there on Sunday, and so on and so forth. So that's our approach to kind of the roster size and rostering based on everybody's individual ability. And we are aiming, Jake, we'll talk a little bit more about this in a second, to do field evaluations towards the end of the season. So we have 3 different methods of trying to make sure we understand the kids' ability. Coaches' evaluations, obviously the most important thing. Jake will go into this in much more detail. Field evaluations, and then our roving instructor doing that as well. So we do our very best when it comes to this rostering question. Okay, communication, everybody's favorite app, Sports Engine. It works pretty well. Obviously, that's where we're gonna. It's better than Sports Manager. Let's put it that way. But that's where you'll see your roster information, obviously the game schedule, all that kind of stuff. And we do ask that in terms of communication between coaches and the team. That's what we use. There is a chat function within Sports Engine. Go to town, publicize pizza, all that kind of stuff, as long as you're socially distant. But we do ask for kind of the really important information, particularly around games, that you actually use the message function, which you can get through the online portal. Jake, is there a way to do that through the app? I've never been able to figure out how to do that through the app, but you can certainly do that through the online portal.
Yeah, there's if you go to the team thing, there's
a status message through the app.
Yeah. It allows you to select all or select
There you go.
players.
I'm glad I came to the meeting. I learned something new. But that's again, we don't want to bombard families and send them 500 emails a day. But 1 email a week, just with the key information. The game is at this location at this time. Please wear this color shirt, so on and so forth, is very helpful. And so we ask that you do that. And then lastly, again, the pandemic will end, I promise. But until that time, I guess our preference is that folks don't carpool. If you have to do it, please, please, please be safe. Don't risk anybody's health. It's just not worth it. Particularly, the vaccines are here. The end is in sight. This is not the time to be doing anything silly. If you'll allow this old man to lecture you pedantically, please be careful. And then, even putting COVID aside, the one other thing that we ask is that, and funnily enough, I was in the situation a couple of seasons ago where a girl that I was giving a regular car ride to a practice with my own kid couldn't make it for some reason. In that kind of situation, we just ask that you actually don't give the ride. You should never be alone with somebody else's kid. Again, not that you or anything bad would ever happen. It's not a question of trust. It's just don't ever put yourself in a situation where you can be vulnerable. So that is that. And now on to the more fun part of the program. I think we're going to talk about the coach's manual. So again, if you haven't checked this out, please do. I apologize. The direct link doesn't work because of magic on Amazon, that who knows. But if you go through the link that you see on the screen at the moment and go through the coach's page, you will be able to get to the manual. You will be able to download it. I'm just a messenger on this one. Can't take any of the credit, but Jake and Coach Ellie and several other people worked really hard on this. It's got a lot of good material. It talks about some of the stuff that we'll go over tomorrow in terms of the Positive Coaching Alliance and how we sort of want to really make this a good experience for the kids. Honestly, even in our travel teams, even in our D1 travel teams, where yes, it's competitive and we're hoping the kids do well. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's about getting kids playing soccer, having fun, learning the game, learning about themselves, learning how to be part of a team. That's what we're all about. And my daughter is the most competitive player in the world, but even I will say that really at the end of the day, the results don't matter if the kids are learning, having a good time, and learning great life skills. And anyway, the manual will talk a little bit about that in terms of coaching philosophy, playing style. Despite several requests to the contrary from some of my assistant coaches, we will never, ever, ever park the bus in Somerville Youth Soccer. I don't care how good the opponents are. We have fun. We play the game the right way.
We're not going to play Route 1. We're not going Route 1.
Anyway, and if you want the details of that, that's in the manual. It is important to look at the developmental targets by age, because as the kids move up, obviously, by this stage, they've completed 5v5 or 4v4, and they're now starting at least 7v7 for travel. But the 9v9 coaches sort of expect certain skills to have been covered, and similarly, once they get to a full-size team, it's not about ability, it's not about talent, not just for the best kids or anything like that. It's just making sure that we're exposing the kids to the right technical elements, ball control, ball striking kind of thing. Don't kick the ball with your toe. Very simple stuff. But those are helpful things that you might want to check out to make sure that as you graduate your kids onto the next level, that they sort of covered the basic skills and that's very helpful. And then lastly, as you know, we promote the Matthews Soccer play practice play methodology when it comes to practice plans. Many of you have been doing this for a while. You kind of know how you want to run your practices and how you want to get the kids set up for the games. But if you are new to this, there's really good information about how you might want to set up a practice. There's some great drills in there that are useful things to kind of have at your disposal. So check out the manual, download the PDF. Please use it. It's a great resource. It's a great thick tome that Jake and team have put together, and have fun using it. So thank you, appreciate it. Thank you for all you do. And I will push it back over to the behavioral issues expert on the other end of the call.
That sounds bad. No, so it's a little less of an issue in general, thankfully, at the travel ages, but it still does pop up, especially grades 3 and 4. I get your texts and your calls. I know how frustrating it can be when you have to deal with behavioral issues. And we want to make sure that you all know that we know the challenge and that we have your back when it comes to this. We want to make sure that we give you a toolkit here to deal with these when they do, hopefully not, but if they do pop up, that you have what you need to deal with it. Basically, it comes down to, a kid is being disruptive, disrespectful, making problems. Talk to the kid, explain what the impact is on you, right? Make sure that they understand that like their behavior is causing problems. That doesn't work, bring in their parent. Their parent should be there for practices and games. We're not a drop-off service here. We're not childcare, right? They should be there. Talk to the parent. If they're not there, contact them through Sports Engine. Let them know what you're going through with their kid. Ask for their help in solving it. They should help you solve this problem. If it turns out that that's not solving the problem, then it's time to come up with a behavioral plan. The coach, the parent, and the player should sit down and talk about agree on like standards of behavior, and then what's going to happen if those aren't upheld. And what you see there is basically sort of an escalating series of consequences. That you should, in the player, it shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, right? When these things start happening, right? And again, these apply to like less serious things. If someone's, violently attacking a teammate, that's obviously a different, that gets treated very differently. We're talking here about like disruptive, disrespectful, problematic behavior, not like violent antisocial behavior, right? That's an entirely different thing. But yeah, this is a suggestion of what we would like to see you do if you encounter this sort of thing. And we have your backs on this. We will back you with parents. If parents, don't think that you should be asking, imposing these things on their kids, we will back you up on this and say, yeah, if you want to participate in our program, you need to get your kid on board with these. But yeah, this entire presentation is going to be available as a PDF. This is also being recorded. Yeah, surprise. You're all, by participating here, you're all consenting to have your images and voice. We're going to upload this to YouTube for other coaches to see. We're not going to publish it, to a huge audience, but it will be there for our internal coach audience to go back and watch if they couldn't make it or wanted to go back over something that was covered here. So I think that's it on behavioral. You're probably going to have questions about that. We can talk about that in the Q&A. So we're back to playing travel soccer this spring. Meisel, Middlesex Youth Soccer League, that's our travel league, for better or worse. Let's talk about Meisel. So roughly, sorry, U14 teams, but roughly half of your games will be at home and half will be away. We're losing Dilboy midway through the season, and we front-loaded our schedule for the 7th and 8th grade teams with home games. But some teams might only have 3. We're working on resolving that. We're trying to get hours at Hormel Stadium and try to move some of those late season games back. But for now, I believe we might have 1 or 2 grade 7, 8 teams that only has 3 home games. And we're looking to remedy that. But yeah, in Meisel, Division 1 is the highest division. D5 is the lowest division. We separate our grade 3 and 4 teams. Not every town does. So sometimes you end up with a grade 3 team playing against a grade 4 team. It's rough. It happened to us. We lost 6-1. You know, season went on. We took our lumps. They learned from it. I would prefer if Meisel separated those teams, but they don't. So it is what it is. The good news is here we're in the spring, so we're not teaching the 7v7 game in most cases to third graders. They tended to get taught the 7v7 game in the fall. So we're hopeful that there's fewer of those unpleasant matchups here between third grade teams and opposing town fourth grade teams. But so you see there, the fall season, it's a September to November thing. In the spring, we go April to late June. We're gonna share with you or did we share the calendar? There's a calendar coming up, I think. But you'll see some key dates in there. At the travel level, there's MTalk that's Division 1 and 2 for grade 5 and older. Those are MTalk divisions. They go play the top 2 teams in each division, I believe, play in MTalk qualifiers when everyone else traditionally does Commissioner's Cup. There's not going to be a Commissioner's Cup this year. We'll get into this in a second, but there might be a decent facsimile of Commissioner's Cup if COVID numbers improve, if the state relaxes some of the rules in place about what they're calling tournaments. This is who's in Meisel. Most of you know these towns. We're just glad Dracut isn't in Meisel anymore. Oh wait, this is going up on YouTube. Sorry, people of Dracut. We love you, but yeah. This is who's in Meisel at this point. Plus, Soccer Without Borders, not officially a town league, but they are a member of Meisel, based in East Boston. They're a wonderful group. If you've never done this, this is what it might look like if you play a 9 a.m. away game. This is a taste of what it would look like for you and your family. It'll chew up a little under 3 hours. But that's a rough idea of what to expect. All right, so you've got your first game on Saturday. What do you need to bring to that game and every other game? Well, your coach credential, that's one thing, right? Or the referee's not going to let you on the sideline. You can show them that on your phone. That's a key update this season. We're not printing those out. Dom has sent things out. We'll make sure every coach, we're going to take care of this before the first game on Saturday too. Just making sure every coach has an electronic version of their credential too. I would encourage you to print one out if you can. I printed one out. If you can't, it's fine. It's on your phone. Just show the ref. Common sense will prevail. You do need to print your team roster. This should be emailed to the head coach as soon as it's approved. There are some outstanding out-of-town waivers that have resulted in some teams not having approved rosters. We're going to be looking to get those all ironed out in the coming days so that that's done by Wednesday at the latest. We don't want any late drama of unapproved rosters. If you are using the Town Player Pass program, which we'll get into in a second, if you're borrowing players from another team, basically, you need to have the printed, approved roster of that player's team as well. There is actually a way to temporarily add players in Sports Manager, not to be confused with Sports Engine. Sports Manager is the old, if you remember, you all probably have kids. A lot of you have kids who were back in the day. You registered them for soccer on a Web 1.0 looking site. That was Sports Manager. Meisel uses that for administration purposes. That's the delay. So Friday night we got our travel schedule. I think I'm going to try to just share team by team a snapshot of that with coaches so they can circulate it to families, so that while you're waiting for me to do the massive upload to Sports Engine that typically takes a day or two, we do want to get word out. But Friday night that schedule went out to us and we want to circulate that to families. Have a game ball if you're the home team, especially. The home team generally provides the game ball. Make sure it's a nice ball, soft, not rock hard, well inflated, the proper size. That's a big thing. Make sure you have balls for warmups. Not every kid brings their ball to a game, so just make sure you have the bag of balls for warmups. Make sure you have your first aid kit. We just played a travel friendly a few hours ago, and very sadly, a girl for the other team took a tough fall and looked like she hurt her wrist. They luckily had ice packs in their first aid kit, so have your first aid kit. If you don't have one, text Marco. We'll be talking about that momentarily too. You should have cones for setting up a physically distanced sideline. Put them 6 feet apart, ideally 10 feet apart if you can. But give them some space and have your players put their stuff by it, and then and have them sit by those cones when they're on the sideline. And then just if you can, have some extra uniform components. I've got some extra pairs of socks I can give you. Some referees are sticklers for the uniform. If you can, have an extra pair of socks, maybe an extra pair of shorts for the player who shows up without their uniform. It might mean the difference between that player playing or not playing. So let's talk season specific info here then. This is the calendar I alluded to earlier. These are key dates for you all. As you most of you hopefully know, we are starting our travel season on Saturday. No games Memorial Day weekend. Take that time, go relax somewhere, take a break from soccer. The season will end with week 9 games. I've been involved on the MISA level in this. Originally, it was going to be nothing. And I said, let's do a week 9. We should do a week 9 for, everyone should have a game. It shouldn't just be MTalk qualifiers. So as a result, there's going to be what we're calling smart matchups, where if you play in a division with multiple subdivisions, we're going to do a crossover game where we match up like the third place team from Division A with the third place team from Division B. So what you see in your schedule for week 9 is probably not going to be the game that you get. Right? That's the week 9 game is the opponent and the time is probably it may very well change. But the good news is you should end up with a very good game in week 9. And they're looking at the MISA level of trying to stage something in Wilmington, what they're calling Champions Weekend or something. We'll see if it happens. But we're going to ask you your coach evaluations by Sunday, June 20th. That's going to be key to making sure that we get rostering done. Your view of these players is the most important to us because you see them day in and day out. You know them, but yes, we're going to have Coach Dean come do a couple of in-game evaluations of them during the season. That will be useful, but you ultimately know these players the best. You work with them, you know where they're at, and we really value your input there. So we're going to make sure we give you very clear, helpful instructions on that, and those will be due June 20th. We are going to look to hold field evaluations this year for the first time in 2 years. Those will be the week of June 21st to 26th for rising grade 3 to 8 players. So that'll be current grades 2 to 7 players. We'll do the older grades, probably or 5th and 6th grade, maybe on weeknights, and 7th and 8th grade, maybe on Saturday. Well, we'll figure it out, but expect those dates. We're going to try to get those out to families. We want to make sure that families are still around at that point. And then MTalk should a team, and we've had teams advance to MTalk. We had 2 go the last time we did this. 2 of our teams made it to MTalk. It's a great event, but that is going to take place the final weekend in June. These are the big changes. Like we mentioned before, no more modifications. We're doing throw-ins, no more kick-ins. Shoulder-to-shoulder contact is allowed. Defensive walls are allowed. The U14s, the 7th and 8th graders, they can head the ball once again. Instead, we have a mask mandate for everyone. This is a player safety issue. So if you see an opposing player isn't wearing their mask properly, point it out to your opposite number, point it out to the coaching staff, point it out to the referee, right? Hey, 97 has her mask down. They've done away with the old rule. Like they tried this thing in the fall where you could lower your mask if you were making it. It was dumb. The rule is now everyone wears a mask all the time. So it really is a player safety issue. The referees are trying to dodge any responsibility with enforcing masks. It is a player safety issue. I don't know how you look at it any other way. So if you get a ref who's refusing to take a proactive role in that, pull your team off the field. I hope it doesn't ever come to that, but like it's the referee's job to enforce player safety, and they're derelict in their duties if they're not doing that. Pull your team off the field and see how quickly it gets resolved. You know, your parents will back you on that 100%. We will back you on that. We'll make sure you don't suffer any forfeits or anything. Like Meisel has your back on this. Don't be afraid. I really hope it doesn't come to it. But if you have a referee who refuses to enforce mask wearing by the opposition, pull your team off the field. It'll turn out all right for you, I promise. This is Dom. Are you on the call by chance? I don't think Dom's on. We gave Dom the night off. He needed the night off. This guy has been doing an insane amount of work. I'm going to talk for Dom then here. Let's talk about COVID protocols. It should be pretty obvious at this point. Wear a mask at all times. Keep physically distanced from players and fellow coaches. This is actually a big one. Think about it this way. Let's say you have a player who participates in a practice and a few days later tests positive for COVID. As a coach, if you've kept physically distanced from your players, you're not going to be subject to a quarantine as a result of that, because you will not be considered a close contact, provided you are disciplined about it and keep your distance from the players, right? Keep your players physically distanced whenever you can. Obviously, if they're playing soccer, there's no expectation that they maintain physical distancing. But if they're on the sideline, if you're doing a classroom session, if they're doing a drill, and sort of, or if they're taking a break, if there's not a compelling reason for them to be within 6 feet of each other, they just shouldn't be within 6 feet of each other. I tell my girl, I'll be like, is there a reason you're with it? Is there a reason you're that close? There's no reason for you to be there right now. Like space it out. And then obviously stay home. Everyone should know that at this point. Don't share equipment. The big thing, give your players pennies. You should get enough for Marco. Give them pennies at the beginning of the season. Tell them that they're theirs. Bring them to every practice and game. Take them home, wash them as needed. You should not be handing out and collecting pennies. We know it's probably safe to do, but let's just not, like, it's going to be alarming to people, and let's just not do it. We have enough pennies, we can hand them out to everyone. We built in a budget for that, I promise. Goalkeeper gloves, every player should have their own, that sort of thing. The goalkeeper shirts, the old days of like trading shirts at halftime, don't do it. This is a big one. Make sure your families are using Sports Engine's RSVP function. As coaches, there's nothing more annoying than not knowing how many players you're going to have at training or for a game. So you have just for your own sanity, you have every reason to ask them to do this very basic thing, right? On top of that, this is our contact tracing functionality we're talking about, right? Use this as a coach to track attendance at things. As players are showing up, have someone on the staff who's responsible for marking them as a yes for being there, or as a no if they're not there ultimately, right? Because should the unfortunate happen and there be, a potential exposure, that's the first thing we're going to ask is, well, who was at that practice? Who was at that game, right? And you're not going to want to go back 2 weeks in your brain and try to figure out who was there that night. Keep a record of it in Sports Engine, please. And then finally, we want to make sure we have a family COVID coordinator for every team. It's not fair to ask our coaches to police off-field compliance. I coach. It's hard enough asking coaches to keep track, to coach and make sure the players are compliant. So as a result, we're doing something different from a lot of towns. We're not tasking coaches with off-field compliance. We're tasking a parent volunteer. Your team should have one. If they don't, if you're having trouble identifying someone, let us know. We'll get involved. We'll harangue them. We'll twist arms. We'll make sure you have one. You see down at the bottom there, if you hear about a player who either has symptoms or tests positive for COVID, please let us know ASAP. There's a series of things that kick into action. We have to notify Mass Youth Soccer. We have to notify the local Board of Health. Unfortunately, these are things we've had to do before. Dom and I know what to do at this point, but we need you to tell us if you find out about this stuff. Uniforms. Well, this slide is relevant for this season, at least. Families ordered directly from Challenger. For those families who requested financial assistance during registration, we provide uniforms for them. We did our first bulk order. It came in. They sent us black shorts. We are extremely unenthused about that. They're sending replacement ones, but those should be distributed this week. I know some of you have seen messages from Sam, our uniform director, who's trying to get some of those distributed right now. We want to make sure those are out to families before the first game on Saturday. Currently, right, we have a blue primary shirt, a red alternate shirt, blue shorts, blue socks. I would love it if coaches were able to begin recognizing where kit clashes were going to happen, the towns that wear blue, right, and just proactively know to tell your teams to wear red. I don't know if that's realistic on my part to expect that. I can send around a list of towns that wear blue. I might, just because I'm a slight control freak, stick to notifying coaches every week if they're playing a town that wears blue, just so we know to wear red. Yeah, each player is assigned a permanent, unique uniform number for travel. That's their number through the end of their travel days. So parents can always reorder replacement uniform components at any time. They don't have to wait to find out their number each season. That's their number for the rest of time, with us at least. All right, Mr. Ahouse, are you on the call?
I am.
What do you want to tell us about Fields?
Those of you that are 7th and 8th grade coaches, be happy and pray that Dilboy stays open as long as it can, because your practices are going to be later than your parents want them to be. There is no other options except for not practicing. So we are short on Fields this fall. We have no Trum as usual. Dilboy will be disappearing. We have limited access to Foss, and of course, there's no Conway yet. We will be using Lincoln Park a heck of a lot more than we normally do. Hope it makes it to Memorial Day, even though it kind of needs to make the whole season, because if we lose Lincoln, we have no home field for our 9, 5th and 6th grade teams. So it will be sketchy. The practices are going to be later than we want. It's also possible that a lot of practices right now that are an hour and 15 and get shrunk to an hour in order for teams not to be practicing until 9:30 at night. So enjoy the hour and 15 while you have it. I understand for travel that an hour is short. You're just going to have to get your kids to be organized and ready right when that hour starts to get the full hour in and not lose the first 15 minutes as they're socializing and goofing around. We will let you, as far as canceled practices, grass fields. Please do not constantly ask if the grass fields are open. It is one of my great annoyances. We will tell you, Jake or I, as soon as we know. And since I'm not traveling for work at all, it's usually within 5 minutes of one of us being notified via email. We are usually not told until 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon if it is questionable. There are times we are told at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning because it is obvious, i.e. it's been pouring for 12 or 20 hours in a row, and clearly the grass fields are all going to be closed, which of course is Lincoln and is Nunziato. All of those of you that are practicing on Lincoln, please be nice to the field. A few things. Never, ever use the nets in their regular position unless you're doing a full field scrimmage, because the grass, the area in front of the nets gets destroyed. Secondly, at the person who has the last practice, you must push them together out of the way either in the middle of the field or over on the side of the field, but you have to lock those 2 nets up. My kids go to Argenziano. If you do not lock them up, I will find out the next morning when myself or my wife are dropping off the kids. So don't think you'll get away with it. I know it doesn't sound very nice, but we are in a tight situation and we need Foss or Lincoln to last. And so I need all of your help to get it to last as long as possible. Also, always with any of the turf fields, no food on them, no sugary drinks on them. Not that most people follow that, but those are the rules, which is one reason why you should reach out to their opponents' teams so that they know that before you come into town. And no, I don't have the password yet for the Lincoln Nets. I will get that tomorrow morning. The fence at Lincoln is getting removed on Tuesday morning, but tomorrow, those of you that are practicing there can slide through the fence and you get to practice on Lincoln, be the very first ones to use it since November. I think that covers most of it. Obviously, we have one practice set up right now, and even then there's still some changes to be made as coaches reach out to me. And then I will start working this week on a post-Dilboy schedule. So there's probably going to be some changes that we all don't like, but we will make it through together. Because if not, we won't make it. That's a bit for me. Am I missing anything?
It's pretty good. And we're going to get into some of the field closures stuff too. But yeah, that's a preview of what's to come. I mean, let me stress also, the future is very bright for fields. You see there some of the new things coming, like at the travel ages. Honestly, we could use another U8 field. So if you're, whenever the city starts spending money again on schoolyard projects, if you're a West Somerville family, please put in a plug for a U8 field at West Somerville. But yeah, we'll make it through this and things will be much better. All right, as Dave was just talking about, our weather policy. It's a little bit different with masks. Typically, we say if the fields are open, you play, right? Unless it's raining so heavily that it's unplayable. But it's a little different with masks, right? If it's moderately raining, typically when you might have played on previously, you're gonna want to suspend play just because a mask that's getting saturated. I found this out myself back in the summertime with our girls team. It's not safe to be trying to play soccer in a saturated mask. You're basically getting waterboarded. So yeah, anything more than light rain, I would definitely suspend play as long as we're wearing masks like we are now. Lightning. We get asked about this. This is the very clear policy. If you see a lightning strike, if you hear thunder, halt things and seek cover immediately. This is we're talking training here because during a game, the referee runs the operation. They make the determination on this, right? But if it's a training or if it's a friendly, there's not a referee involved, then you as a coach should immediately blow the whistle, call things to a halt, tell people to seek cover. You can resume only after 30 minutes have elapsed since the last visible lightning strike or audible thunder. And you see there extreme temps, hopefully not an issue. Hopefully we're past the 25-degree minimum wind chills and the maximum heat index of 105. That's going to primarily be an issue. Like with turf, we might get concerned if it's oppressively hot in June on the turf. But typically, then there is a series of protocols that go into place with just like water breaks built into games, hydration breaks. But the 105 is a pretty extreme thing, and hopefully it doesn't ever come to that. It wouldn't be practices; it would really just be afternoons, Saturday afternoons for games. If there is a weather-related cancellation, as Dave just said, fields are open and training sessions and games are on unless you hear from us. We cannot stress this enough. We say this every year. Every year we get messages in the chat. Our grass fields, our fields open. Our practice is on tonight. Please, can we make this a year we get 0 of those? We tell you immediately, the second that we get word about that. I can't stress that enough. The second we hear, you are the next people to hear. It would make our year if we were to somehow make it through a season without being asked if grass fields are open. I know it sounds like we're being petty, but like it happens so much. It really, it's, yeah, you're doing us an immense favor by just knowing this. They're open until you hear differently, right? If things are canceled, we will do that. We'll go into Sports Engine. We'll cancel the practices. Please do not go in and delete your practice. If you delete a practice, it disappears and families are not notified. Families get a notification in Sports Engine if it's marked canceled. That's the only way a notification goes out. A deletion basically means families are going to show up to practice expecting it to happen and be really annoyed. So please do not delete practices in Sports Engine. If you have projected low turnout, if you can't make a session, first of all, talk to us because we might be able to send Dean. We might be able to rescue that if you can't make a session. But if let's say, there's some night where everything's happened and like you're down to like 4 players showing up and you want to cancel, email Dave, fields@somervillesoccer.us. Dave will help you with that process. For games, if it's a home game, if our fields close, we will take care of that. We'll cancel the game in Sports Engine. We will notify Meisel. We'll notify the away team, right? And that typically has to happen before 6 a.m. because if we wait longer than that, then teams have left for 8 a.m. kickoffs. And I have good news. There are many, many fewer 8 a.m. kickoffs this year. We've been generally able to avoid those in many cases. There's roughly, I would say, half the number of 8 a.m. kickoffs that we've had in past seasons. For away games, that cancellation is going to come through Sports Manager. You'll get an email about it as a coach. We should be, if you get that, please text us. You should have my number. If you don't, like, text me that they closed your field, and we, either us or you, someone should go into Sports Engine and mark that game as canceled so the parents find out ASAP. All right. We're very excited about our Roving Academy trainer, Coach Dean. Coach Dean is an alum of our organization. We have very cute pictures of him as a U6 player playing at Triangle Field. He's come through the program. He knows it. He was a captain at Somerville High. He's played overseas. He's been to most of your team's training sessions at least once, maybe as many as 3 times this preseason. We want to send him on another 2 to 3 visits this spring. If he's coming to your session, you'll typically find out on like a Saturday or Sunday beforehand. You'll should get a notification through Sports Engine that says event updated, your practice with Coach Dean. That's your cue. If there's something you want him to work on, if there's something you'd been planning on working on with your team, email him, Coach Dean at somervillesoccer.us. Tell him what you want him to do. He's super responsive. He's done an amazing job from the team that I'm involved with of incorporating what we wanted to work on, and came up with great drills for it. He's fantastic about that. If he doesn't hear from you, he's going to do whatever he thinks they should work on. So this is your chance. If you want to have input on what he does, email him well ahead of time, not an hour before the training session, right? When he shows up, introduce him to your team. They should know him, but if even if it's his 8th time, just say, hey kids, this is Dean. Dean's gonna take the session tonight, and then let him run the show and help out. Take a back seat and just let him do his thing. All right, the Town Player Pass program. This is a big thing because in some cases we've gone with some smaller rosters this spring, and we know we're going to need to rely heavily on the Town Player Pass program, G5-6 in particular, and some G3-4 as well. The Town Player Pass program allows teams to basically borrow a player for a game from a nearby team, skill-wise. So they've relaxed the rules. You can play down a division now. That didn't used to be the case. That's normally not the case. But this spring, a player can play down 1 division. You can't play down an age group. You can't take 5th and 6th graders and have them play on a grade 3 or 4 team. But you can have players play down 1 division. That doesn't mean down 1 team, right? You can't just, because sometimes we have a gap between, we might have a D1 and a D2 team and then a a D4 and a D5 team. That doesn't mean just because the team above you is above you can't necessarily borrow their player, because they might be 2 divisions above. But we do want to see a lot of use of this. We're planning on that happening to make this work in a couple of age groups. There's no limit on the number of times that a player can play with a different team. There's also no limit on the number of town player pass program players that a team can use on a given game, right? The exception to these being MTOC divisions. And I saw this came up in the chat. We'll answer it here. MTOC divisions, just to be clear, are Division 1 and 2 at the 5th grade level and above. If you are a B5-6, B5 red, G5-6 blue, B7-8 blue, G7-8 blue coach, you are an MTOC division team, and you have to abide by the old rules, which limits players to playing up 3 times. I think you can have 3 town player pass players, etc. And you can't have a player played down, but that's not really a big issue except for B5-6 red. Everyone else, these relaxed rules apply to you. If I didn't say your team's name, these relaxed rules apply to you. We do have some guidelines. You see them there. The big thing is, like, obviously they're rostered with another team. That team's depending on them showing up. So that should be their priority, right? If they're going to play 2 games in a day, they need to prioritize being there for their primary team. That means it's okay to give them less playing time with your team, right? Prioritize playing, make sure your players are getting the minutes they should get, right? If someone needs to get fewer minutes, make sure it's the town player pass program player. Don't let them dominate games. Don't, if it's a kid playing down and they're scoring, like, don't play them at striker. Don't play, don't let them come in and just wreak havoc on a game, right? Because presumably if we did rostering correctly, they are playing in a division that they are above skill-wise. So don't let that ruin a game. And then the last thing is, don't promise anything to a town player pass guest player about roster moves that might be might be made, or like future town player pass opportunities. Just don't promise anything. You're glad to have them joining you. Thank them for coming out. Thank the parents. Don't make any promises, because you don't necessarily know what the landscape is. All right, one of my favorite topics, match officials. We have a really, really dire refereeing shortage this spring. If many of you on here are going to have games where you don't have a referee, I'm just telling you now that the numbers are just galling. They don't have enough. So especially at the grade 3 and 4 levels, some of your games you're gonna be calling them. I'm telling you now. We just don't. The referees are just not there. There are going to be some U12 and U14 games played without ARs, and that is rough, right? You're talking about a referee calling offside from the center, from the center of the pitch. And I've done it. If you've reffed, you're guessing a lot of times at who's onside at that point. We will look to see if a coach or parent can step up, and be that referee or AR. Hopefully we can get some of that. The big thing is we need you to be on your best behavior with officials. That means, you see it there, like, you shouldn't be saying anything critical to or about officials. What sounds are you making when a call, when there's a call you disagree with? What gestures are you making, right? Your players are watching this. The officials are seeing this. You just got to not do it. They're going to be on the lookout for this. You're going to get a yellow card. That's a warning. You're going to get a red card. That means you're out. If you get a yellow card, we're going to tell you need to ref a game as punishment for that. If you have refed a game, you are going to be so much more understanding about the predicament that refs are in trying to get calls right. If you get a red card, you're going to take a break from coaching. It's that simple. We're drawing it's a line in the sand here. We're not going to, we have so few officials. We can't handle any more abusive referees. So I hope I don't have to talk to anyone about any of this season. All right, we're going to give you some homework tonight. Hopefully you've done a lot of this already. Coach credentialing. You must be credentialed by Mass Youth Soccer to be on the field with kids. If you are not credentialed, you cannot be on the field with kids. It's that simple. The components are listed there. I'm not going to read through them. You should know what they are. If you've heard from Dom, take care of it. Take care of it tonight. Take care of it tomorrow night. Get it out of the way. You have a game coming up on Saturday. Don't think you can log on Friday night and take care of this. It will be too late. Your Corey clearance will not happen in time. You will not be allowed on the field with kids. It's that simple. Take care of it tonight or tomorrow night at the latest. You have to be registered with us in Sports Engine to be added to a roster. It takes 5 minutes. Just do it, please. Links to both of these are at the URL you see there. That's one thing. Hopefully everyone here is credentialed. It's been making Dom's life tough, but he's working hard to make sure everyone is credentialed. Equipment. If you haven't done so already, text Marco at the number you see right there. Do it right now if you want to while it's on the screen. Ask him to prepare the equipment bag for your team, and you can go pick it up. Once he tells you, you can go pick it up at his place behind the Argenziano School, 37 Clark Street. Marco has today and tomorrow off of work, which is a rarity. This guy works 7 days a week, but he's taken today and tomorrow off. Get that into him now. Tell him your name, tell him the age you're coaching. He'll take care of the rest. But please do it right now if you don't yet have your equipment. I'll leave it up for a second longer if you need to jot down his number. All right. Now, protect yourselves COVID-wise. Make sure you're picking up your COVID kit from Dom's house at 23 Sergeant Ave here in Winter Hill. It's got everything you see listed there. If you run out of supplies, let him know. He'll get you more. And the fourth thing, I know a lot of you were able to go take advantage on Friday of the vaccination opportunity, and that was awesome. I want to publicly thank Steve Flythe. He's a parent of a kid on my team who forwarded me the message from Somerville. And I'm going to guess we had 50 plus coaches go get vaccinated on Friday. And I'll keep it PG rated here. That's a hell of a thing. You know, that's awesome. Like that made my week. That so many of you were able to go take advantage of that. If you have not yet gotten vaccinated, you are eligible as an out of school time provider to go take advantage of that. I would encourage you, we're going to look into whether we can do a second round of that for those who missed out, because you got very little notice. I think that email went out around 10 a.m. on Thursday. And the deadline was 3 p.m. to register for Friday. We're going to talk to CHA and see if we can do a second thing of that this week. Hopefully it wasn't a one-time only thing. But just know you are now eligible in terms of trying to get appointments for a vaccine. And we're going to try to see if we can do a second thing with that. But then, yeah, just wash your hands, sanitize them before and after team events. Protect yourself. All right. Let me first, before we go, let me go back through the chat and see if anyone had anything they put in there. Up-to-date link to MISO rules by age group. Absolutely. There's a MISO coach's handbook we're going to send out to everyone. Thank you, Sean, for asking about that. That will list everything. It breaks it down by age group. If we have a bag of balls that is a couple of years old, yes, I'm in that same boat, Johnny. We should both be getting fresh. There's no reason for us to use old. Like we have new ones, and the old ones actually get recycled to Somerville Public Schools PE departments, and those teachers are extremely appreciative. I found out my kid at the Healy was playing soccer with a volleyball and was like, whoa. So we did a quick donation to the Healy, and I think they went to Winter Hill and maybe East also. So yeah, don't be shy about exchanging your old gear for new gear. Dave says about ice packs. Yeah. M-Talk, we answered that one. Judd about mask wearing. Yeah, don't feel like you need to put up with improper mask wearing. I'm pretty intolerant of that. There's no reason for anyone to tolerate that. Jess asks, do the family COVID coordinators have to sign up again? Yes, please. That should be, it's a season commitment they're making, so we want them to make that commitment again this season. I think I answered Mark's question in there on the Dillboy closure. We'll figure out the Lincoln password or pass the Lincoln combination. How old does a youth referee need to be to enter the referee pool for U10 games? So, Will, I know why you're asking that. We will, if we find out we don't have a ref for a game, we will absolutely put one of our in-town ref graduates in charge of that game because it's a lot better than having the coaches have to do it. Can you use tape to adjust player numbers? Yes, you can use tape to adjust player numbers. Players who don't have uniforms by the weekend. Ooh, hopefully everyone has a uniform by the weekend. I have heard reports that Challenger might be behind on some of their orders. They were really responsive to us with our bulk orders, but I've heard reports that families who placed orders to them have been waiting 4+ weeks for them. If that's the case, we have a follow-up schedule with Challenger to check in on that tomorrow. Sam is going to be talking to them to find out what's going on with that. Typically it's 2 to 3 weeks. I know they're slammed, but that 4 weeks is excessive. So we want to make sure that we're on top of that. All right, let's see anything else in here. Yes, certain referees are sticklers for the exact kit. My hope is that they are reasonable about that, given what's going on in the world, and honestly, it should be. I'm at the next MySoul board meeting. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to send something out now to them and just say, hey, let's make sure we aren't having kids sidelined because of that. If there's a kid who's not going to have a shirt, the shirt's the key thing. If they're not going to have the shirt by Saturday, I have personally a few backups here, and I will deploy those as needed. Update player numbers. Don't sweat the player numbers on the roster. You can change them with pen if need be on game day. Johnny's asking about if player. Yeah, so we just placed a new order, a supplemental order, a bulk order. So, yeah. All right, I think that's everything in the chat. So, you must have questions. Go ahead.
Yeah, Jake, question. Marcos here.
Hey, Marcos.
Field permits for Foss and Cup One, are they online now?
Are you running into issues with people trying to squat on?
No. I'm just covering bases in case.
Oh, they should be. It's just item number 374 on the to-do list right now.
Okay.
we will get to those, I promise.
Okay, no problem. Just let me know because I have a feeling, especially at Foss.
Yeah, especially riding in there for the 5 p.m.
Yeah.
That could be a slight issue. We'll make sure that at minimum we distribute the Foss things to the coaches that are there. Ben, you have a question?
Yeah. Okay, I'm back. You mentioned for coaches having extras of uniforms like socks and shorts for kids who either like forgot them or don't have the right kit. Is that a separate order I should be putting in myself with Challenger and just like have on hand?
Oh no, we would never ask you to shell out money out of your own pocket for that. Our bulk order of the replacement shorts should be arriving very soon. At that point, we should hopefully have enough to have socks. Most players will have shorts. It's really the shirts are the key thing. But yeah, socks wise, we have a lot of extra socks here. A lot of coaches, it's common for them to just have a pair or two in their backpack or team bag, equipment bag that they bring to games. And if you want some of those, text me. I'll get those to you.
All right, sounds good. Thanks.
Yep.
Hey, Jake.
Hey, Joe.
How are you? So this season, are we doing player pass cards for the kids or no?
There are no player pass cards involved.
Wonderful.
Which I know. Thankfully, they were like, Meisel was like, but how will we know if a player gets sent off? And I'm like, you don't do those in the fall. How's this any worse?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they keep the cards anyways, and you got to remember to try and get them back. So,
I mean, yeah. To me, like that was a victory for common sense. Was Meisel dumping the player pass cards this spring?
Great. And then another question is, in Sports Manager, are we still closing out the end of the game in Sports Manager, or are we doing that in Sports Engine and that carries over to Sports Manager?
Sadly, there's no carryover, but I will go do that for you manually if you don't know Sports Manager. I mean, we're back in the day, everyone still had an account in Sports Manager, but eventually we're going to get to the point where like coaches who've come in since those days, or who are young enough that their kids never registered in Sports Manager won't have an account. So, yeah.
All right. So just continue closing in Sports Manager.
If you get it in Sports Engine, I will make sure it gets entered in Sports Manager. That's my promise.
Okay. Thanks.
But if you have Sports Manager access, by all means, knock
Yeah,
yourself.
I typically close it out there anyways. I
I
wasn't
think they
sure if
send
we
you
had
a
to do it
link.
in both places.
Yeah, they send you a link after every game, don't they? Where you don't even need an account. Am I right?
Yeah, yes. Well, they did. I mean, we haven't done this in 2 years.
Right. Yeah, we're going back into the memory banks on this.
Yeah.
one.
Okay. Thanks.
There've got to be more questions than that after all this.
Jake, Will,
Hey, Will.
you interpreted my ref question as pertaining to Lillian. I was actually thinking about my sixth grader and lots of kids I know in that age group. It seems like the like long-term, I'm interested in what Somerville can do long-term on the recruitment and placement and training end to solve the referee, do our part to help solve the referee shortage problem overall.
Yeah. So I think we're about to engage with the grassroots refereeing program. We sort of tried to do it on our own for a while. We had a really good program built up. There's sort of a disconnect that happens, right? Where like, so you've established yourself as a good in-town referee. How do you then take that next step and become a travel referee? We tried sort of doing like, one-off pushing of people to do it. They come in, they do it for free. It's a really good program. And I think we're going to partner with them starting probably in the fall. But yes, if you have someone that wants to start on that track, talk to me. Talk to John Sanders. John's been on our board in the past. He was involved in booking the referees for the travel friendlies here the last couple weekends, and probably booking some coaches as well. No, but yeah, John would love to help players get started on that route to becoming licensed travel referees, and there's a lot of money involved in that. Actually, it pays really well for a teenager. And then selfishly, we would love to have a bunch of Somerville referees and not have to worry about our home games, at least.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Jake, on the referee part of it. So you were saying for 3 and 4 that coaches may have to ref those games. How are we going to know if there's going to be a ref or not?
So it's going to be in Sports Manager. I'm reluctant to say I will keep an eye on that because I feel like I mean, I can set a calendar reminder to myself to check on that every week.
That's going to
I'm
get
a little
ugly.
reluctant to like take on something else right now.
Well,
but,
yeah. But my point is that's going to get kind of ugly with an MTalk season, a Commissioner Cup season that we're reffing a game against another town. So.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, I don't have a good answer for it. And the saddest part is that, like, for whatever reason, all the deadlines passed a long time ago for certifying more refs. Like we identified players out of our intern program last month, and we're like, oh, let's get them plugged in. And the answer from MISL was, oh no, it's way too late. Like the deadlines were like months ago for the ref courses. Like there's nothing that can be done. So, maybe we'll try to. Maybe I'll see it. I don't want to volunteer John for anything, but maybe I'll reach out to John who just completed his certification as a referee assigner. Maybe he's willing to keep tabs on that for us and assign some of the in-town grads to work.
Does Dean actually have a team himself, or if he's available, could he ref a possible game?
Oh, Dean, we want Dean actually watching these games to like as part of his in-game evaluation duties. We prefer he's not reffing them. But yeah, I think the answer might, and I'll talk to John and see if he's willing to do this, just to keep tabs on the games that are, and maybe he's friends with our referee assigner. Maybe we establish it with our referee assigner. If he knows there's a game that's not going to have a ref covering it, that he notifies us, and then we can send up the bat signal and bring in one of these kids, so at least the coach isn't stuck doing it.
Great, that'd be great. Thanks.
It would be
Joe and others, I have a suggestion from preseason, like Rocky experiences already yesterday with like parent behavior in a visiting sideline for a home friendly that we were hosting. I would just recommend, like, one safeguard is recommend splitting ref duties half and half with the other team. I was sort of like accused by I was reffing a team that I didn't even have a kid on either team, and was accused of favoritism, and things can just get weird if there's a sense of partiality. So that's one. It's like one of the only things I think you can do to remove that possibility. And also, anytime a coach has just reffed or knows they are about to ref, the tendency to extend goodwill toward the referee, I've observed to be greater.
Gotcha. That's a good suggestion. Thanks.
We played a friendly against Burlington tonight where I refed in one half and the Burlington coach refed the other. We went like the high school model of 2 refs on the field, which is messy. I don't necessarily recommend it, but it's a good way to avoid any sense of favoritism, where you have a ref from each team out there.
Well, I mean, in the fall, it really wouldn't matter as much, but it does in the spring. So
Yeah. I mean, so at the MISA level, they're just really hopeful that like saner heads prevail in terms of like competitiveness and like people trying to game the system, in the spring. I know spring is the mantra is fall is developmental, spring is competitive, but since so many towns did not participate in the fall, it's a weird spring season. Any other questions?
Jake, it's Matthias. Is there a way for us to contact the other town coaches?
Yeah, so like let's say you get the email. Is Sports Manager still sending out emails to people with the content, like before a game? Do we think with the contact info, or has that gone by the wayside?
well, it did when we last played.
Okay.
Still going on.
Yeah. We encourage you to reach out to the other. I mean, so basically, I've sort of been trying to step into that gap during the fall and then the preseason here of sending out emails to everyone, kind of just sending them info. But I would encourage you to like, especially if you're playing at Capuano, let them know about the parking thing. That's a big deal. If you don't know, the city does not enforce parking restrictions around soccer games. Sometimes they actually do mistakenly, and then I get to feel like a golden god by getting a parking ticket quashed, and I love doing that. That's the administrative work that I actually live for, is quashing parking tickets. So you've been on these emails, you've all seen these that I send to opposing coaches. It's basically like, hey, FYI, make sure your families know they can park anywhere near Capuano. They can ignore resident parking signs, and if they get a ticket, send it to me. It happened on the weekend. I have a ticket I get to quash. I'm in heaven.
And how early can we show up at the games?
So at which field?
I guess let's use Capuano as an example.
So generally, we built in a lot of time at Capuano right now. We did 90-minute slots there, which typically it's 75-minute slots. We did 90. So Capuano, you probably can get there 20 minutes before your game at Capuano. But I know you're coaching 5-6, so you're thinking more Lincoln. I would look at the schedule and see what time the game before you is scheduled. If it's because sometimes we did hour 45 slots for 5-6. Sometimes at Dilwood we had to squeeze in 90-minute slots. So I guess there's no great answer. Just look at the schedule and see when the game before you. If you want, by the way, if you ever want to see the schedule for a field, just go on our website, do fields, click the name of the field, and you'll see a calendar with every game or practice there.
Okay, that's good to know, especially for Lincoln when we have to move the goals back, or who should move
Yeah,
over.
yeah. To find out, that'll tell you for the last game.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's a good question.
I have a question. This is Raj.
Hey, Raj.
First time participating in the spring season, so I was just curious about next week being April break, whether coaches in the past have typically seen practice numbers drop or anything like that, or last minute modifications of schedules, anything like that.
I mean, occasionally, yeah, yeah, I think experienced travel people just know, like, oh, even though it's April vacation week, like stuff still goes on. My guess is, even though things are opening back up, I'm not quite sure that this April vacation week is going to be peak travel in the past, especially because just given Somerville Public Schools calendar, right, with like the looming start of full in person on the 26th. I could be wrong, but my guess is that we won't see the level of travel that we might typically expect, and not like we're going to see like Memorial Day weekend. I think we're going to see a lot of travel, and then especially like in the summertime, we're going to see a ton. So my guess is no, but I mean, talk to your team, find out what they're going to find. This is a good time to send something out and just be like, hey guys, just a reminder, like, we're going through April vacation week. Let me, if you're going to be away, please let me know right away. That's what I'd recommend. We should introduce our boys and girls travel program directors who are on here. Beth, are you on the call still?
I am here.
Beth Balter and Liz Shea.
Yes.
For those who don't know that, you guys want to introduce yourselves and
Hi. Sure. Hi. I have 10% on my phone, so.
Oh no! You're like,
may I go first?
Yeah,
I'll
please.
go first. Hi everyone. I'm Beth. I'm the girls travel program director, and happy to help with any of your questions if you want to come to me first, especially as the games start to kick in. Before you go to Jake, that's probably for the best to take some of the crap off of his plate. And yeah, Jake, what's my email address? It's girls travel director.
Girls travel. You have a bunch of them, but girls travel at somervillesoccer.us is the easiest one to remember.
Okay.
Or we could do this. How about that?
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to punt and help out with anything that comes up in the next few weeks or at any point during the spring season.
Yeah, and same. Will and Todd have been great age coordinating B3-4 and B5-6. So certainly, before, just like Beth said, before going out to Jake or to Dom or anyone, definitely ping us. We've been doing this for a bit, so hopefully can help answer your questions pretty quickly. You also can, I was going to say text me, which I'm terrible at getting back to people sometimes. I'm trying to get better, but you can text me too if you need to, which is 617-480-9817. And maybe smoke signals too.
Yeah, they're not exaggerating. Liz and Beth have done that. Like, they know what they're doing. They're great resources. Like, don't hesitate to reach out to them. And your age directors. Like, we have a very good administrative staff assembled here. Like, don't be shy. And even though I went away from the Q&A thing, we're still in the Q&A session. If you have questions, by all means, fire away. Oh, Gus, I saw Gus had a thing in the chat about can reach out to high school kids. Oh yeah, referees get paid. We pay referees. We pay, even if they're not licensed referees, we're paying, if they work a game, as far as I'm concerned, they're getting paid the Meisel rate. We want to talk to as if they're just, coming to us cold and we don't know who they are, we're going to want to talk to them a little bit, maybe watch them ref a game or something. But yeah, it's a great opportunity for teenagers to it looks great on college applications. It pays pretty decently. We'd recommend young people get involved in that. I'm sure a lot of you, when you go play in other towns, you see how many teenage referees suburban towns have, right? Nobody, I don't see anyone nodding, but I see it. Like a ton of like teenage suburban referees, and we'd love to have a similar number of licensed teenage referees here in Somerville.
Yeah, yesterday at the Waltham game that we had, there were, let me think. I think there was the head referee was there. They had that was training referees on the sideline. There were probably 15 kids that were in training in their uniforms there. And then there were 2 linesmen there, and then an assistant linesman with each of those linesmen just practicing and getting the feel for things.
Yeah, we should. I'm really hopeful we have a program like that in place here in the very, very near future. I think it could really pay off for us.
What's the rule with throw-ins and not doing a correct throw-in? Because we've had 2 preseason games and both refs have done the opposite thing, right? So
it's up to the ref, honestly. It depends how generous the ref is. Some refs believe in teaching the game, and they will let a player do. Definitely in the fall season. I don't know if it's different in the spring. It's up to the referee. Especially at the 3-4 level, and especially coming out of what we're coming out of, you might have refs who are like, all right, hey, that was a foul throw, but let's try it again. You might have other refs who are just like, foul throw, other direction. If you're like us, you're already plotting to have a full, spend like 20 minutes working on throw-ins at your next training session.
We didn't have one mistake, but the other team had like 8, and I'm like,
oh,
give me a break.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Keep that back leg down.
That's something you can ask the ref when you start. You say, confirming what rules you're playing with.
That's a great idea, John.
Even though the rules are clear, they're not necessarily the ones you're playing with.
Yep. That's a great idea. All right, it's almost 9:30. Any other questions? I promised you I'd have you out of here decently early.
We have our coaches game on Saturday night.
We're going to start a series of coaches games on Friday nights. Once we no longer have to go late at Capuana, which I think will start the 23rd, I think. So for those who haven't taken part, those coaches games are really fun. We need more women to come play in them, and they can't be like such like dude fests like they have been in the past. It's a really good vibe. I'm terrible at soccer and I have fun at them, so I would put in a big plug for taking part in our coaches games. And we're gonna do a series of them. It's not gonna be just one for the spring season here. We'd love to make it maybe an every other week thing. Yeah, Corey's coming for us. I like it. So yeah, we'll start on the 23rd. We'll figure out a whole calendar of those. We'll get them up on the all coaches thing in Sports Engine. We'll make sure people know about it. We might actually be at Foss. We might be at Foss if Dave could speak more about that. But we might. It looks like we're sort of losing steam in terms of Friday practices at Foss, so we might end up doing 11v11 there.
If we have enough players, but I do have one team that is now pushing back to go back to.
Okay. All right.
15
maybe no
slot
Foss
Foss.
Park late then, or maybe we go scrimmage B7A Blue.
And taking in the physical fitness of most of the coaches, Capuano is probably a better bet than.
I think so. It's worked out pretty well in the past. So, all right. If you have any other we'll say last call for questions. It'll be later on Friday nights, Rodney, like 7:30 or 8. Any last questions? All right. If you have something you think of after the fact, you know how to get a hold of me by now, probably. Seriously, again, thank you all so much. I know I yelled at you about the referees. It's a cause that's near and dear to my heart. I know you're all going to be wonderful with the referees. We appreciate what you're doing so much. Let's go have an awesome spring season. I think everyone's excited for this. I know the kids are, the coaches I talk to are, the parents are especially excited. Let's have an awesome spring, and I'll see you hopefully at Capuano for a coach's game here very soon.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.